on one hand, we have our first food wars, and on another hand, we have boobs that defy the common law of physics. So, take your pick. That's what this episode of Food Wars was. So, let's get into the boob physics first, because I think that's all what we want to get into first. So, the first 30 seconds, or, 20 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever. Just, the first segment of the episode, right before the opening song. Her breasts, man, defy the common law of physics. Like, did you hear the sound effects? It sounded like wet fucking meat slapping on the counter. Like, if you were to slap a steak on the counter, like, if you're just to grab a fucking steak and you're wanting to cook it, or liver, and you just slap it on the fucking counter, that's what it sounded like. And I'm like, oh, God. The sound effects are just, yeah. So, I gotta hand it to the studio. I bet they're enjoying those sound effects on Mito. I think they definitely are, because there was a lot of them in this episode, and a lot of the boobs just going straight up for no apparent reason. They're just going straight fucking up, and just like, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what the fuck? So, Mito is obviously going to be used as fan service. Like, she's going to be one of the main characters throughout the entirety of this series that's probably going to be used as fan service. It's very obvious how she was introduced in last week's episode along with this week's episode. Like, majority of this episode, like, every time Mito was on screen and had screen time, you saw a close-up of her boobs, like, straight up. You can call this boob wars. That's what this episode was, like, boob wars, or attack on meat. There you go, attack on meat. But the point is, okay, this episode, regardless of that, it was a very good episode because the fan service really works for this series. I mean, it's a series that has fan service going for it. It definitely uses fan service to showcase emotions of characters, of how they feel when they're eating food, and that's slightly what was going on in this episode. And I think the way the fan service is used with Mito as a character, it definitely suits her design, because, I mean, look, it's ironic how she's good at cooking meat, and then you just see this giant meat on her chest, and you're like, my god. And just the meat sound effects, too. Like, it sounds like fucking steak hitting a counter. So, obviously, that's what the animators were going for, and the writer of the series was going for when that character was designed. So, let's just roll with it. Moving past that, this episode, for the most part, very predictable in some ways, because I knew for a fact Soma was going to win. It was very obvious. He was not going to get expelled. Like, I doubt that. I was pretty much 99.99% certain Soma was going to pass and win, because he's not going to get expelled. Like, the main objective of the series that's been set out is for him to conquer, the Elite 10, kind of. That's kind of what the objective is so far. And so, yeah, for that, I just really doubted that he would be expelled, but later on down the road, when he probably gains some shit, like he gains a club room or he gains different things, then it's up in the air if he will win or lose. That's the main thing we have to wonder, because right now, since it's so early, I highly doubted Soma was going to lose. But let's say a next Food Wars comes around, next challenge, and he has a couple of things he's gained, like, club room or different things like that, then it's up in the air if he would win or lose, because then he doesn't have, like, the risk of being expelled instantly. So that's kind of, how this episode was. So I knew it would end like that, but it was still a good episode just to see the outcome of how he actually did it. The main point I watched this series is just to fucking admire the food. My god, man. Like, I seriously, I'm gonna just be straight up honest. If you are not eating, like, if you don't have any food, when you sit down and watch this series, you're gonna be fucking hungry. Oh my god, I'm hungry right now, man. Like, I'm cooking some food down there. I'm cooking me some homemade chicken noodle soup, cutting up meat and shit. It's in the crock pot. And when I was cooking it earlier, I had to slap meat on the counter, and, I heard the sound effects in this episode of Food Wars, so that's kind of why I talked about the sound effects. It sounds like you're slapping meat on the counter. So yeah, I was cooking me some food and all that, and I haven't ate yet. So watching this episode was unbearable. It was so unbearable, like, watching this episode, because it was so... The food is so good looking. Like, the way the food is drawn, the animation on the food and art, oh my god. it looks so appetizing. Like, seriously. I mean, I really wish I could just put my hands through my TV screen and just drag out the fucking food because it looks so good. The steam and shit coming out. Oh my god. So, yeah, this week's episode of Food Wars, it concludes the first Food War challenge. It has it where Soma doesn't join the club, which was very unexpected. I did not expect that, by the way. I did not expect to see Soma just deny the club and walk off and leave, and Mito join the Dawn's club, but Soma's not a part of it. So, that was quite the unexpected revelation of this week's episode. I didn't expect that. That's one thing I did not expect. I expected him to join the club, help them out, become the club leader in this episode, and continue on, but no, it didn't go that way. So, maybe it's not over. Maybe next week he might join. Because it's very odd how he forced Mito to join the club room, but, you know, then he doesn't join. So, something's going to go on. Something definitely is going to go on in the near future. But regardless of that, great episode. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Are you hungry as much as I am? I love you so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.